The nature of our country is rich and diverse. For centuries, mountains, steppes, deserts and forests have been support for the ones who love and understand their motherland. They have been giving people food, shelter and hiding place from enemies. But they also have been ruthless against those unable to adapt for living in harsh conditions of wild nature. Along with the constantly operating outdoor Kazakhstan tele-expedition, you will visit the most remote corners of our country and learn how to survive life or death outdoor situations. The West Altai is a vast mountain province stretching hundreds of kilometers on the Kazakhstan-Russia border. The Irtysh River separates the Kazakhstani part of the West Altai from the Great Steppe. The Kazakhstan-Russia border separates it from Altai Republic, and the South Altai is situated right past the Bukhtarma River to the south. All the parts of the Kazakhstani Altai belong to South Siberia. The flora and fauna of the krai have all the characteristic features of the Siberian taiga southern subzone. Wintertime, the snow depth is up to 2 meters and more. That is why free-range husbandry is not a common practice here. So wildlife do not compete with domestic animals for pastures and live just the way they lived thousands years ago. Today, the constantly operating outdoor Kazakhstan tele-expedition sets off to one of the most inaccessible places of the West Altai in order to master the mountain taiga survival skills. In 10 days, our cameraman Maxim will have to survive on the mountain plateau top in the Boma River headwaters. According to the experiment conditions, he can eat only the nature of food that he would find in taiga. He can fish, pick mushrooms, berries, dig out plant roots and hunt. After the experiment, he will be examined in a medical center and the doctors will find out how the expedition affected his health. The expedition reached the supposed shooting region in almost 2 days. It took a day to get to the Rieder district center. 1,150 kilometers was the distance they covered. 100 kilometers from Rieder to the ecological Poselye Chornaya Uba, the travelers easily covered in 1.5 hours. Поселие is what the locals call farms and bee gardens, which with the cryo-ecological tourism development gradually become guest houses. Our cameraman spends the night in relatively comfortable conditions of a guest house for the last time, as tomorrow morning he will have to reach the top of the absolutely uninhabited plateau and spend 10 days there all alone without any food among wild animals. I go into the wild rather often. I have had previous experience of surviving in the wild for a long time. But those expeditions have never been a systematic survival experiment. I was very interested in this topic, so when I have been offered to take part in the outdoor Kazakhstan project, exploring the nature of Kazakhstan and wild survival skills, I gladly accepted the offer. I have just realized the difference between simple and television survival. Of course, the survivor has the same problems if this project is not being shot by stage sequences. But he also has to somehow shoot the process himself. You have to take all the equipment to the mountain top, so it takes a lot of time. But this task is very interesting, and I think we can make it work. Early in the morning, the Poselye owner Evgeny Sidelnikov and his workmen load all of Maxim's equipment on a medium artillery tractor. This is the only transport able to make it to the winter hut of sable hunter Victor, who lives in the taiga all the year round. Our cameraman is going to climb to the top of the plateau from that place. The off-roader cuts across the Chornaya Uba river and goes deep into the taiga wilds. Time almost destroyed the old geological road. Autumn windstorms bring down the trunks of dead trees, and even the artillery tractor is not always able to deal with such obstacles. There are mixed lowland forests along the riverbeds, and on the ridge slopes one can see a real coniferous taiga consisting of larches, fir trees, spruces. And at 1,300 meters altitude, one can come across mighty cedars. Suddenly the track snaps. The film crew is afraid that such a terrible breakdown may be recovered on Let's Kolkova, but the experienced taiga dwellers repair the off-roader with the help of pinch bar, sledgehammer and other nanotechnologies in a few minutes. The winter hut of the professional hunter Victor is located in a thick forest on the bank of a small mountain river Lachicha. Some present-day rivers of gold bear the same name since the times of Freemasons. Altay Freemasons did not have anything to do with the Masons. It was the name for fugitive serfs, old believers and simple thieves who lived in the wild Rocky Mountains. They broke out of Tsarist regime, built huts on the riverbanks, hunted sables and washed gold. Our cameraman bids farewell to the support group and heads to the top alone. He has to cross the rivers apparently just the way did the Masons. The grasses of valleys and intermontane depressions can grow as tall as an average human. When it rains, it is very hard to walk in the sudden jungle. In the first day, Maxim managed to walk only 3 kilometers. These are faliota orivelas. I will surely fry them. The breakfast is ready. Honey fungi grew all over the tree trunks, covered by moss. It is not hard to pick them. Maxim picked a bag of splendid young mushrooms in an hour. Today is the first day. I came to a meadow and picked this bag of mushrooms. That does not mean that I am going to eat only mushrooms, but at least I will have a 10-day food reserve, a bag full of honey fungi. Now I am going to dry them, and in extreme case, I will not die of hunger. The way up to the plateau was hard, but the next day evening, Maxim reached the top. Even a 700 meters vertical ascent requires a lot of energy. Though there are honey fungi for supper, our cameraman still feels shortage of calories. He wants to eat, but slight malnutrition braces him. Craving differs from a physiological concept of hunger. It is rather a psychological function than a physiological one. Not only the physical, but also the moral shape of a traveler plays a significant role during long-time backpacking. Mountaineers and fans of other types of extreme tourism have special temper that helps them to derive enjoyment from physical activity. High moral mobilization makes brain neurons increase synthesis of endorphins, the hormones having effects similar to opiates. A human in such condition is able to overcome great physical challenges and manage with less amount of food. Bilberry shrubs grow along the river, and beyond is the territory of a big black bear. Hunter Victor told much about him. He lost his mother, got out of control and became a real cannibal like Hannibal Lecter. He couches motionless on a cliff near a trailway, watching for a poor victim, jumps on it like a sumo wrestler, breaks their backbone with one hit, and savorily eats out the body before it gets cold. Victor found here the remains of 3 young bears and a moose corpse. The tourists' greatest concern is what is the probability of unprovoked attack by a bear. The scientists undoubtedly say that bear is the most dangerous mammal predator currently living. Bears usually prefer to avoid humans in the bear hunting areas, but an instant unprovoked attack is rather possible in case of an unexpected encounter. Dozens of people get killed by bears every year. Professional hunters advise unarmed tourists not to go to the areas of very high bear density. cedars grow on 2000 meters elevation. This is alpine tundra. In dwarf birch thicket, Maxim saw a pot of tundra partridge. And from the pass, a side of a green bowl edged by spikes stuck out of cliffs. Lakes sparkle as emerald green plates in the broad bed of the valley. There are many paths on the grass made by bears. The lakeside is perfect for the base camp, as there are many mushrooms, blackberries and pine nuts. This red currant is very sour, but in September, when it is a little bit freezing, the berries become sweet sour and very tasty. According to the experiment conditions, the first 10 days Maxim had to eat only the natural food as a picker. That is, he could dig out plant roots, pick berries, strawberries and mushrooms. And the next 10 days, he has to survive by hunting and fishing. Besides, the expedition organizers made it a condition that the experiment should be both exciting and cognitive. They gave me a register to chronicle which and how much food could I find in the autumn forest. Then the calorific capacity will be defined and matched up with the amount of energy I spend for inevitable everyday physical activity. I must measure them. Actually, it does make sense, because it is easy to practice self-denial and refrain from food being in stationary conditions, lying on the sofa at home. But when you have to walk 10 kilometers a day with the load, of course you must compensate these energy losses. So our aim is to understand how likely can we compensate it with the help of wild nature. I personally think that in the city I eat more, move less and obviously have put on too much weight. And here I move more and eat less, so I hope to lose it. The first, that is vegetarian stage of the expedition is complete. Not only did our cameraman survive, but also, as he thinks, lost excess weight and restored himself to good health. But it is still not the time to leave Altay, as he starts the next hunting fishing stage of the expedition. Maxim has to survive by hunting and fishing for the next 10 days.